Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this late Thursday night. And Kari Lake absolutely has Katie Hobbs on the run in Arizona. The Democrat Party does not have answer for Kari Lake. They are avoiding her, ducking, or refusing to even debate her. And Katie Hobbs is literally running away from reporters who just want to ask her, why do you refuse to debate Kari Lake? She does not have a valid reason outside of her saying that she's just crazy. Well, if she's crazy, then why don't you go ahead and show it to the rest of your state in a debate? Why don't you go ahead and confront that, call her out on it? But because she can't, because she knows her policies are so terrible that the people of Arizona would reject them. Well, our friends over at Project Veritas, of course, did an excellent job and dive into the campaign of Katie Hobbs and her fear of Kari Lake. So let's kind of take a look at this, coming to us again from Rates Red State Media. And they went ahead and linked this video from Project Veritas. And this is showing the moment that Katie Hobbs is approached by a reporter to ask her about her failed attempt to want to even debate Kari Lake. Everyone listen to this. To their RCNI Maxwell Project, passion after reflection about statements that you've made. Oh, you're going inside of a restaurant you ran, considering your campaign drives around with an AR-15. Don't you think rules for the but not for me is problematic for someone running for state office? The cars lock themselves. Secretary Hobbs. Ladies and gentlemen, running from a Project Veritas action reporter doesn't want to discuss policy. Well, Kari or Katie Hobbs, just showing how pathetic of a loser she actually is of not willing to defend her own talking points, her own policies, her anything. She's not willing to defend any of that stuff. She's unwilling to go onto the stage with Kari Lake to discuss the issues, because she's afraid she knows the things that Kari Lake will call her out on, and she doesn't want to have to answer to that. Just like when she was sat down with a reporter over the weekend asking her about the Latino community with Eric Wood in Arizona, and her talking about how she had some Latino friends. Really? That's the equivalent of someone saying, I got some black friends. And then the guy pursued the question, say, well, can you tell me some good qualities and etc., etc. And she was unable to discuss any of those things because she probably doesn't have any friends. They're Latino. And that's okay. You don't have to have friends from every different race and culture. Right? But don't lie about it. Don't sit there and lie about it. I love the clips yesterday from Kari Lake, where she was speaking to a group of Latinos and she said, pretty, you know, I'm married to a Latino, fantastic, to Apple to children. But I'm a gringo. I'm a great, it's okay to be white. It's okay to be you. You don't have to pretend. And that's what the Democrat Party continues to be, a party of grifters, who will continue to sit there and say what they need to say, and refuse to even debate the majority of Democratic candidates right now running for any type of office, whether it be at the state level, or even at the federal level, or right now refusing to even debate Republicans in an open forum. That's how scared these people are. And I would presume the same thing will happen come to presidential election, and 2024 when Trump is the nominee, that Democrats, whoever the nominee is, whether it be Biden and Kamala or anybody, that will refuse to sit there and debate Trump. And then, some significant news, we have a bombshell revelation on the corruption of the FBI, and it's even worse than any of us imagine. We're gonna see exactly what's just been exposed. We're gonna find out that the corruption actually gets even worse. An FBI official revealed the shocking new detail of corruption within the Bureau on Tuesday. FBI Supervisory Counterintelligence Analyst Brian Austin was the first witness in the trial of Igor Danchenko. Now Danchenko is the man behind the infamous anti-Trump dossier that detailed all kinds of salacious details about a mythical trip that Trump supposedly took to Moscow that Putin was supposedly using as blackmail against him. That dossier was fabricated. It was a fraud. The events detailed in there obviously never happened. Everyone admits that, and Igor Danchenko is, when all is said and done, the author that dossier. He hired other sleazy minions to fill in the details, but he was the one entrusted to fabricate its contents as a result of the investigative work of John Durham, Danchenko, and the first witness called to testify, FBI agent Brian Orton, opened the trial with an absolute bombshell. He testified that the FBI offered ex-British intelligence agent Christopher Steele $1 million to corroborate the salacious allegations made in the dossier against President Trump. According to Austin's testimony, The FBI felt that they had insufficient solid evidence for the FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. And so they offered, and this is key, they offered to use our taxpayer money to pay a foreign spy $1 million for one purpose only, and that was to deliver slanderous information that would destroy the 2016 campaign to Donald Trump. This is so much worse than Watergate. This is beyond belief. The FBI used our taxpayer money, our money, with the intention of interfering in a free and fair election by deliberately destroying the Republican candidate, but it gets worse. Now remember, who is Christopher Steele? Christopher Steele is a former British spy who was hired by the Clinton campaign to dig up dirt on Trump, and he in turn hired this Russian fellow who's now on trial, Igor Danchenko, who put together all the fabricated absurdities on Trump, which he then delivered to Christopher Steele, who put the dossier together and in turn sold it to the Clinton campaign. And so what we have just learned in this trial is the revelation that the FBI actually went back to the guy who oversaw the compiling of this dossier, Christopher Steele, and offered him $1 million if he could corroborate it just a little bit better. That way they would get their FISA warrants. But what happens next is even more disturbing. Now, obviously, Christopher Steele couldn't corroborate a thing. So he never got the $1 million. But that didn't stop the FBI. They went ahead and submitted the dossier as it was, which they knew was total nonsense. They nevertheless submitted it to the FISA court, which turned around and basically rubber-stamped their request for a warrant to spy on Trump. They couldn't stop Trump's campaign with the dossier. So maybe they could bring him down by spying on him and tapping into his campaign's computers, which we've also learned that they did. So again, it gets even more insane. You're ready for this? So Danchenko, the guy who fabricated all the details about Trump's mythical trip to Moscow, he's on trial. Danchenko gave all those details to Christopher Steele, right, who put them together in the dossier, delivered it to the Clinton campaign. We now know that the FBI offered Steele $1 million if you could provide further evidence that would say Trump's campaign, right? He didn't give it to them. But the FBI still went ahead, used the fabricated dossier as evidence to spy on Trump. And now we know that is March 2017. The FBI actually signed up Danchenko as a paid informant, what's known as a CHS, confidential human source, knowing that he would continue to feed them with lies, the same kind of lies he was feeding Christopher Steele, which the FBI was using as evidence to obtain FISA warrants to spy on Trump and using your tax dollars to pay for it. So the FBI actually paid for Danchenko to continue to feed them Russian disinformation in order to frame the president for colluding with Russia. It's insane. I mean, the very fellow who's responsible for all of those disgusting, salacious lies about Trump contained in that fabricated dossier was a paid informant for the FBI. Our tax dollars basically paid him to frame our president. So what's our takeaway from all of this? Well, believe it or not, there's some very, very good news coming out from all this. Alright, the cat's out of the bag, and there's no going back, there's no hurting the caps. As it were, the corruption side, the FBI is being exposed more and more every single week. And that's having a dramatic effect on the FBI, his reputation both within and outside DC. Top-ranking Republicans are already saying that FBI reform will be one of the top items their new agenda for the new coming majority in November, get especially given what's happened with Trump and Mar-a-Lago. Keep in mind, this FBI that raided Trump's home is the same FBI that was paying the likes of Christopher Steele and Eva Danchenko deliberately for false information. It is, when all said and done, the beginning of the end for the FBI. Even Victor Davis Hanson is coming out calling for its dismantling, and its responsibilities dispersed among various other federal investigative agencies. The FBI these days are over. It's not a matter of if, it's only when, and they only have themselves to blame. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode. Goodbye.